Okay, I'm sorry, then okay, let me hold on.
Yeah, the announcement had the agenda.
And then underneath it.
Well,
Yeah,
it had John's edits, but was there a link
Right.
to the Google
Oh,
Doc?
there it is. Okay, I'm sorry, I
there's a
apologize.
table there with John's.
Okay, there's the, okay.
Oh, that's
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
oh, Scott. All right. Well, we got 3.
And I apologize, I need to leave a little before 6:30 because I have back to school night.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we did all that. You're doing it virtually, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yeah. This is I bet this is John coming in.
Yeah, it's just a phone number.
Right, but then sometimes he calls in.
Mary Trucks is here.
Oh, Mary's calling in.
Good.
Hi, Mary.
Okay, we got 4. Okay. Okay, so, well, we got 4. Might as well get started because actually we probably can't, if we don't get another one, we can't continue once.
Once Denise leaves.
So let's get started so we can try and get this, because if this goes maybe as expected, it won't take too long. Let's see here. All right, so let me call up the agenda. Which tab is it at here? Okay. All right. So it is 6 o'clock. We do have 4 of us here, so that's a quorum. We can get started. Okay. And so we'll dispense. We don't have the pledge on the agenda for this meeting, so we'll just jump right into it. First thing on the agenda was public comments. If anybody wants to talk about anything, although I'm not exactly sure. I guess it's supposed to be anything that's on the agenda, but the only thing on the agenda is the sign. But public comments. If anybody would like to jump in and say something before we get started. Public comments. Okay. Once.
That's a good sign.
Okay. So on the okay, so the roll call.
If I could on public comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's been some concern out there regarding the signs on my vehicles, and I just want to make sure that I'm in accordance with and I'm in compliance with the sign ordinance. So I guess basically what I'm asking this committee is if there is any issue with having signs on my vehicle.
Well, I would say this. First, we're only talking about the changes to it, so I don't know that we're not the final word in it. Obviously, that would be up between the city manager and the chief to make the call on that. That being said, I don't know of any specific part of the current ordinance. I mean, we're talking about the future ordinance. I don't know of a specific part of the ordinance that it violates. So that's probably, I mean, that's
interesting.
I'm sorry?
I said, that's interesting. I have hearing this, I have a different thought on it.
Jump in.
Okay. So it appears that one or more people might be concerned about the bringing to the residents' attention that there is a candidate for councilman. And my questions that I have in my head is, where is this different from history when Truman and Roosevelt did that? And they went as far as vehicles and trains and buses. This has been shown through history that cars were used as vehicles for political campaigning, or just to get the word out there that maybe the vehicle supports somebody. It'd be interesting, and this really opens the door for conversation. It'd be really interesting to see if there was a law where somebody could not do that on a car when there's so many political stickers. I saw a bumper sticker just about 3 days ago that must have had 42 Biden stickers all over the back window, and all I could think about was, well, you're not supposed to do that because you can't see out the back window. But, you know, that's his car, and that was his right to, you know, to state his claim. The other thing that I wanted to bring up on that then would be, hello, pizza's here.
We're here.
Is so okay. I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, that was a big doorbell. The other one was that we live in a time where the rules are out the window. How are we going to get the word out to the residents? You know, it's getting so funneled to just few options of how to tell the residents or community who's running for campaigns, and to go visit their website, to read everyone's website, and to please, you know, base your decision on getting to know every one of these candidates. And we're in a very difficult time right now where people aren't picking up newspapers or buying them, and newspapers are folding. The County Weekly is just digital, and most people don't have it. I'm glad I do. And there's other avenues that candidates need to take to try to get their notice out there to say, I am running, please visit my website. So when I think about that this is of concern, I question, well, we're living in a very unique, not a unique, but this has been happening since the Spanish flu. And I looked up this tonight that the Spanish flu was called the Spanish flu because the Spanish media did their job. If they hadn't done their job, they would have said this is terrible flu all over the world. But it said in this article from the museum that it's called the Spanish flu because the media did their job. So back then, it was how do you get the word out? Interestingly enough, at 5:55, a woman walked up to my door by the name of Amy. She's with the Census Bureau. I said, hello. We talked. She said, can't get a census on the people across the street. And I said, oh, 3 people. And listed their names. And she said, they haven't answered the phone door. I've gone there 3 times. I said, they probably won't. They don't want people on their porch because of COVID. See what I mean? So here we live in a society right now where people are like, who's on my porch? Who are these people? I'm not going to answer the door. So you know, when you try to think about the creative ways to get the word out there that the residents, the community, people that are voters need to know who their candidates are and just read up on them. So that's my 2 cents from my soapbox.
Well, I thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. And I think you got a good point there. And, but you know, Scott, I think the final call really would be with the city manager and the police chief, but I don't think there's a specific, you know, paragraph, subparagraph. Mayor.
So I have Alex looking into this, and so he was hoping to get back to me tomorrow. Okay,
so there we go. That would be the definitive answer. I would not want to be the person making the call because it's not my area of expertise to.
Well, and that's why we have lawyers. So
exactly.
So he will be looking at it, and I apologize for late. I have a family thing happening. Can I just ask how this topic was brought up? It's not a part of the agenda, and so I'm just curious.
Under general comments, Scott was just asking if there was anything that we knew about in the ordinance that would that was being violated by the signs on his van. It was in public comment. Okay.
Can I just make one more comment?
Sure.
At the end of the meeting, perhaps we need to add this to how we go forward. If we go forward, you know, if this is something we need to address, yay or nay, how do we, is that like a bullet point amongst all of our other items?
Scott's particular question?
No, I'm just talking about kind of signs, you know, car signs. Okay. And this is just one example, but there are others I know in the Bay Area where they plaster the entire car with advertising.
Yeah, you can buy the advertising that, yeah, covers the car.
And so let's take this example and figure out how we want to address it if it isn't addressed or is addressed in the current ordinance, right?
Ooh. Well,
Sounds
then
fair.
it sounds fair, but then you kind of get into people when they decorate their cars for like a graduation and a birthday.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
Right,
kind of,
that was all over for graduation.
All right,
Yeah.
well, I think we're kind of straying. I'm going to pull us back in. And
I'm like-
Scott, go ahead, Denise.
oh, I was going to say, I guess you wanted to wait until the end of the meeting. So, but
Well,
I don't think it should be included, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, so Scott, did we answer your question though?
Well, there's a couple of things on there. First and foremost, this committee was formed to adjudicate things like this and make sure that we have a document that shows what is and what is not allowed. So I think this is the proper place for this issue to be. And then secondly, how soon do we think it's going to be before our lawyer gets back with some sort of opinion or advice? And how soon can we disseminate that information?
Okay, so first question, my understanding, the charter for the subcommittee wasn't to become like the overseers of the signs. It was basically to take a look at the ordinance when it was passed, and it was agreed for the committee to form, take a look, see if there were any changes we wanted to recommend, and then report back to the city council. So I don't think, the idea is not to make this a permanent, that's outside our scope to adjudicate. We're not adjudicating. That's not what we do. Considering it, we could talk about later, including that in the consideration. That certainly would be something we could discuss. And as to the third point, it sounded like Alex is supposed to get back with a word tomorrow. And I'm sure as soon as Mayor, if you want to talk to that.
So he indicated he would try to get something back tomorrow, and I will give that to Karen to disseminate based on whatever it is, or perhaps Alex can. I will discuss that with him and how best to do that. The other thing is it was very clear at the council meeting that the current ordinance will stand through this election. So there is no timing for us to rush. And I agree, this is not, an avenue for adjudication or anything like that. We are simply looking at a document at ways that the council wanted us to take a look at and offer suggestions.
Okay, so that being said, all I'm asking for here is whether or not I'm in compliance with this sign ordinance, really. And if I'm not, then tell me and I'll take appropriate action. But that's what I'm looking for right now. And based on what you've told me, this committee should be able to tell me that.
No, I don't.
Alex will let us know a legal determination,
Hello, John.
and that information will be disseminated.
John, you want to?
Yeah. I think I'm with the mayor and Gary on this, and that this body is not to say yay or nay on any sign ordinances. We're just reviewing the existing sign ordinance and making recommendations to the council. So this isn't I think it would probably have to be a planning commission that would have to review the existing sign ordinance and see whether or not you're in or out of compliance. I know the chair. You can probably talk to him.
All right. Okay. Further comments? Further comments before we jump in?
No, thank you so much for that.
Oh, no. And I'm sorry we couldn't give you a more definitive answer. I just think I'm not comfortable because it's just outside our charter. So you don't want to take my word on that. We want to go to the experts, and that's Alex. So.
And I understand, Gary, and thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
No problem. That's why we're here. Okay, so I realize this is out of order, but we should have done a roll call probably before we did public comments, but we'll do it real quick. Mary?
Here.
All right, I am here. Denise,
Here.
Kim,
Here.
Allison,
Yes.
and John.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there
Yeah,
you are.
I'm not, sorry. I just
That's
had
okay, good.
work.
All right, we're all here.
Kinda-
Okay, so first off, the main order of business tonight is to review what, the old business, review the table, and then talk about the way forward from there. Now, first off, I just want to say a big thanks to John for making all this work, for all the work on the table and getting it back out to us. We apologize for this becoming cumbersome. We know when we created this, the clever idea of putting council and planning commission people on it. The idea was to keep this simple and efficient and like a working committee, and we had no idea that we were stepping into the middle of something that was going to turn into following the Brown Act, and which completely makes it a lot more cumbersome. And so our apologies for that, but that's what it is. So that being said, hopefully everyone had a chance to look over the table. It was disseminated, I believe, by Karen over John's table he put together. And I guess the first order of business is any comments? Any comments on the table? Did we see anything in there that we have questions?
I have one. It wasn't just me. Kim actually was a really good counsel on that too. So it was a team effort.
Great. Well, we really appreciate it. So before we decide to move forward, we need to decide first if what's in the table looks like what we were thinking. I know, of course, the big thing is taking out the time limits for signs on the private property is a big part of it. Yes, Mayor.
So I'd like to ask Kim and John, talk to me about your process for blending, deleting. I looked at it, but I didn't see deletions and that kind of stuff. So I did not have an opportunity to compare that with the current ordinance. Can you tell me your process and how you went about blending and editing?
John, I'll let you go, then I'll jump in.
I was going to say, Kim, you can take this for a shot. It was as the kind of the name of the committee. It was pretty ad hoc. You know, it was just, this sounds like it's similar. I mean, we wanted to basically just get it into the distinction. The biggest distinction is commercial and residential. And basically, if it's residential, you know, you have the First Amendment to basically protect you. If it's commercial, then and the safety ordinances that are already in place, and that's really the only limit. And then, you know, that was helpful because you didn't need to, on the residential side, you didn't need to really define all these distinctions within signs, because a sign is a sign is a sign, and really just keep it out of the right of way, and that's really the only thing, you know, that we would say on the residential. With regard to commercial, I think we left a lot of stuff in place just because those rules were set up for good reason. So, Kim, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I think the whole, like, if we look at it holistically, we wanted to distill it down into something that would be super simple. So that if someone was a resident, they could go to the residential section. If they were a commercial, they could go to that section. And again, when you eliminate the time factor, you really, now you're just down to, you know, you could have any old sign as long as it conforms to size and square footage. And then there's the chunk of signs that are prohibited. And so, so the residential was really simple in that we were just looking at size and then what's prohibited, because there's nothing that would be permitted. And that wording is difficult, right? Because when I say permitted, that means allowed. It doesn't mean you need a permit. In other words, there isn't a sign that you would have as on your residential property where you would need a permit for it. So as far as commercial, though, there was, you know, what's allowed and what's prohibited, and then things that you would actually need to get a permit for.
Did you delete any category under the commercial umbrella?
I don't believe so. I think we kept pretty much everything, you know, there. I think there was maybe some awning signs. There was a I think we felt awning, and there was one other sign that we felt was basically the same sign. But other than that, there wasn't much consolidation.
Yeah,
I concur with that.
Oh no, actually, I didn't sign a red line. Yeah, that's right, because I just gutted it. Is what I did. I just cut all the language out and just put tables. Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry, Kim.
I think the purpose was to start out and then build from something. So this isn't like final. This is like, it gives us a table to work from, and then we can add in.
If I remember correctly, the idea was the table, we're going to want the table to be the first part of the ordinance. So before anyone gets into legalese, most people can just look at the table and go, oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
And I think the purpose too is to clearly define, you know, what's enforced and how you do that. And we haven't even gotten to that yet, right? So this is just sort of the initial, what are we going to allow in both of those sections?
Right. Okay, so this isn't like in stone yet. This is just kind of the beginning from whence. Okay.
So the idea was, and please correct me because it's, first of all, I apologize. This is starting probably my 8th hour of Zooming today.
Me too.
I am about done with Zooming, but I believe the idea when we did this month before last was create, and thank you, John and Kim, for doing that. And then what we'd like to do is find some volunteers to maybe go back and look at cleaning up the verbiage, which is what we had started when we thought we were ad hoc at first, and that effort kind of stopped once we realized we couldn't be just willy-nilly passing stuff around on a Google Doc. So I think the idea is look at the table, and that's the old business today. If everyone is happy with the old table, then we can move to the new business, which is talking about, okay, now let's clean up the language, the rest of the language, which was already kind of started, finish cleaning that up and marry the two. Is that how you guys remember on the committee? Is that kind of how you remember to proceed forward with this?
Right. It was to be simplified, and the lingo was going to be simplified as well.
Okay. All right. So we're back to the table. So, Mayor, did that answer your question then about the table?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Denise, do you have any questions or any comments or anything on the table there? Whoop, you're muted, Denise. I'm sorry. You're still muted.
There I am. Sorry. Yeah, no, I like what I see and I can understand it.
Okay.
Yeah, right on.
Mary?
Yeah.
I'm happy with it because I'm thinking, I'm not just from my standpoint, but when I'm, heavily involved in designing signs, there's a lot of cities out there that I work with, from Watsonville and Modesto to Carmel, that are so mind-boggling in legal verbiage that the customer is frazzled, just the way John feels on 8th hour Zooming. So to make it simpler to folks for easier comprehension, will also be seamless for the people at the counter at the planning when they're, filling out permits and stuff. So it's going to be a win-win.
Okay. All right. And I mean, it looks good to me too. I mean, I'm looking through there. I don't see anything. like I say, I like the way we cleaned up the residential part, left the commercial pretty much alone. And, the enforcement aspect of it gets much simpler with the changes we made in residential. I mean, enforcement becomes, it's going to be a much simpler, straightforward part of it when we write that in there. So, okay, well, if there's nothing from the committee, I'll go back out to the public. Anybody want to make a comment on the table? It was part of the agenda. If you look down below, the table was attached to the below the agenda. So if anybody would like to jump in and make a comment. Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Well, not seeing any, then I guess let's move on to the new business, which, as I see it, basically is, I think the agreement is we need to take the table, but now we need to go back to the verbiage and try to clean that up. I would, probably we should try to find maybe two of us to work together that are not named John and Kim, since they did the table, and move forward with it. Comments on that? Ideas?
Gary,
oh,
go ahead.
Gary, is that okay?
Yeah. No. Yes. Go. I'm sorry.
Sorry. The table, can you tell me, I'm sorry, I'm focused on the table and the original ordinance. How
Right.
many pages was the original, and it looks like now it's about 2.5?
Well,
And how much other verbiage are we talking about? That's what I'm looking for ultimately.
okay. So the original one, if you hang with me one second, I can tell you was, I guess, there we go, 20. It's about 20 pages long. And the idea was, like we said before, is we redo this. We wanted to put the table in that first paragraph. Just so the first thing they see, so if someone goes to sign one, it's the first thing they see is the table. Now, the table is not all the legalese, right? I mean, you still have to have all the whereas and forthwith and all that stuff that makes Alex and his kind happy. But the idea was that for most of us, any regular person that had a question, the first thing they would see would be the table. And then, as Mary was saying, what we were trying to do was to clean up the verbiage and whittle it down a little bit. And that's the next step. We had already started that process. Whoever picked this up, and that process has already started. We can take what we did before with the Google Doc, and we can move forward with that. So a lot of editing was already done, but we just need to finish that process and then bring it back to the committee, and then everyone needs to read it, and we talk about it, discuss it, and make sure it's, we're happy with it.
So
And
what
Mayor Allison, what I wanted to say was the drive for this is when we first received it to read, it would have been fine if you had a customer or a resident that had their attorney read it, but they don't. It's the customer, it's the resident. They're not attorneys. And we need to present them with things they can understand that isn't filtered with too many whereas, theretofore, ergo, all this kind of terminology that sometimes in the legal jargon, they understand redundant roundabouts. That's what I call them. But that redundant roundabout that can happen, which is the way in legal terms is how you waiver liability or where the liability falls, it's just too much on the average job.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like people being able to go to a document and be able to apply it to their own situation easily without having that. I totally agree with that. I completely forgot my question.
You were, I think, asking about the next step. Kim, go ahead. You jump in there.
Yeah, I just think we need to look at either that Google Doc or whatever the ordinance document that we need to look for, and identify sections.
Mm-hmm.
And figure out, and then maybe just assign sections.
I thought about that. I actually was looking at it. I was thinking about if you broke it in half. I think it'd be nice if we can keep it to two people talk about it without any, Brown Act issues. Because I think it would be nice to have two people working on it. It was like you and John. So if we broke it in two, I think it's down about paragraph 150. I think is where it was about halfway down. I don't know. If you see a cleaner break, that's something we could discuss. But that was something that had, that had occurred to me, was maybe the other way might be just to break it. Whatever two people want to do it, let's break it up into two pieces, and they can each take a piece and then get back together and merge them.
Right.
I remember my question, and it had to do with, I'm sorry, I missed a meeting, I believe in July, but I want to be absolutely sure that we're clean as far as the document was presented
Yes.
at okay. And so that document is on record.
Yes. Alex said that we took the steps necessary to heal it from the ad hoc start. He Yes. So I told him, he and I worked hand in hand, and we walked through the steps to heal it. And so it's all that document. But now, so from this point forward, that we just need to have 2 of us,
Okay, thank you.
not 4 or 5 of us. All right. So Kim, do you see a better place to break it? Like I said, I was looking, let me go down and look where that was.
I'm just looking at my hard copy here.
I'm just
And
looking down around 17.150, I think is where I was looking, was about halfway, but that may not necessarily be the best place to break it.
I mean, I feel like there's sections where like there's the table that talks about exempt signs. There's, definitions. There's the table that talks about prohibited signs.
Yeah, well, here, I would say this too. Here's another idea. If we identify the 2 people that wanted to work on it, we could just let them decide how they want to break it up. We don't necessarily have to decide right now how they break it up. They can, I think what we need to decide is if we're happy with the table, then I think we just need to decide to go ahead and try to clean up the verbiage in the existing ordinance to go with the table. And at that point, we get to assign the 2 people to it that would be willing to work on it, and then they can go, I think they could break it up how they can decide how they want to break it up, maybe. I don't know. I mean, do you think, I don't think we need to decide who does what here. So, but I do think it would be good to identify. And of course,
You know what I was wondering, because you keep mentioning the breaking up thing, and this could be like so left field, and like, what? But again, I don't know if this is just the way cities operate, but why aren't there 2 separate ordinances that are separate packets? One's for residential and one's commercial. And then you don't have to go filtering through.
I'm going to
Because somebody comes in and goes, I want something on my house that says it's okay, go grab the residential packet. Here you go, 2 pages. I have a commercial business. I'm coming in. Here you go, 17.
I'm going to guess, Mary, probably the idea, and I don't know, but I'm going to guess the idea was somewhere back in the back, it was just signs. Okay, we'll throw signs into a, paragraph and we'll number it. I think the problem, if you try to split it up, I don't know what that does, then the numbering might get a little more complicated. But certainly within that sign area, certainly I think the idea is we want to have the table, have a residential part, clean, nothing about commercial. The part about commercial clean. Yeah, and I think that's the goal. That certainly is what we want to do with it.
I think that can be a question for Alex, right? I'm guessing there's going to be some verbiage, I could be wrong, that, overlaps between the 2, but, we could take that into account or the 2 could take that into account, and then we could see from Alex if there are concerns about doing it, separating it that way. Because I agree, I think again, it makes it a little simpler.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think that at the very least, that was our goal, was to have that, table that would be very clear, and then, they would just look at the first part.
The table's for all the people who want to read it, and then the rest of it's for Alex. So, but
Right.
Right.
we have to make them happy, right?
And enforcement, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, like I say, once again, the enforcement part gets, exponential.
You got the header that says, if the headers at the amusement park, so you got to be this tall to take this ride. The section says you have to have some kind of legal background before you read the next 17 pages.
Yeah. Well, the enforcement part's going to get exponentially easier because basically you're going to have the gross square footage, the individual sign square footage, which are both pretty generous. They're the ones that keep
they are.
And there's no time limit. Once you do that, really you're down to, all right, is it on a fence? Right. I still want to put a sign on my fence, but I guess I'm probably going to lose that. But the enforcement gets a lot simpler. So
right.
Didn't we make that change about it could be on a fence as long as it,
Did you make it up? Did I miss that?
John, didn't we do that?
No.
Did we make that change?
Oh, then I missed it. Okay.
I thought we made it
Yeah.
I thought we
Good.
made it
Talking about it. Okay,
in
thank you.
July.
Good. And
Yeah.
yeah. So okay, well, it sounds like we're generally in agreement the way forward. And it's too bad Denise had to leave. She
But
had a,
that means we can volunteer her.
yeah.
Well, I will say this. I do need to go soon because my niece has a Zoom class or a Zoom with a teacher that has an adult present apparently on her tablet. But I should have some time over the weekend to, if you want me to do another edit run through of any words that I could highlight that could be, shortened. I
Okay.
could have some time. So
Yeah.
just throwing that out there.
Okay, the next meeting is not scheduled until October, I think it's the 9th, whatever.
Oh, God love you. That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you. Because
Let me
September is
look-
going to be quite the busy month.
Yeah, it's, what's that, Wednesday, the 7th, the first Wednesday. So October 7th.
Okay.
So we have some time. So Mary, would you be willing if Denise can do it? You work with Denise, and
Yeah.
if she can't, let me know and I'll
Absolutely.
work with you. Because I don't want to
Yes,
ask you.
absolutely.
You did good part already.
Thank you,
I
Mary.
do want to, you bet. Absolutely. I do want to mention that I recognize I was absent for a little while with the transition of having a niece live with me, but I also wanted to let you all know that it's going to be a rather long road for myself and one of my wonderful employees, Tatiana, because her sister, my other employee, was killed 2 weeks ago when, if this was auto week, she would have been here and maybe God would have spared her. So we're really having a tough time with this.
I'm
Oh.
So just
sorry.
letting you know,
Sorry.
yeah, that it's just, there's this grieving process just comes in waves and stuff like that. And so I was preparing things for this West Coast service while they were doing the East Coast service. And, when you have a close-knit family that are your employees, and auto week that they've been doing for years, and when people find out, they're grieving too. So it's been, flooding of phone calls and emails and people coming to see me and say, like, how are you doing? And you're just, you're just hanging in there, but you just can't help but shake the feeling that if auto week was going on, could she be alive today? And, I told at the service I had down in River Inn this weekend, I said to folks, we need to now turn our love toward the person who was on the cell phone and killed those two people. He's got to live with it. Yeah, he
Wow.
has to live with it. So it's time for us to turn our love toward him, and we've got to start healing. So I think this would be good for me to get into this and look at that and try to edit and get my brain focused on something. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we're
Thank you,
sorry,
Mary.
for your loss, and
Thank you.
thank you for offering. So before we move on, let me go back out to the public. You guys been listening? Any comments on process or where we're headed with this? We
I'll be there in a
the
minute.
next meeting would be in about a month.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So Mary, can you do me a favor? I'll let you. Can you
Reach out to Denise?
And,
Yep,
and again,
absolutely. I'm on it.
if that doesn't work, if it's bad for her, then just don't talk to her anymore, and just let me know, and I will help you with it. Okay?
Yeah, I'm sure she'll say yeah.
I will. I don't know. I don't know everyone's situations. I don't want to make any assumptions because there's so much
That's
going
true.
on now that we don't,
Yeah.
that we're not, that we're not aware about and aware of, and so. Okay. Well, I'm excited because I think that this is getting towards the fruition of what we started with originally, and it's been, like I said, again, everybody's been very patient. Thank you. It's been a little bit of a bumpy road as we got over those initial bumps, and but I think we're on track, and I think it's going to be exciting to pull all this together and then have something we can send up to the council and the residents and let them take a look at it. Okay, let me double check here. I don't think there's I think that covers the agenda. The next thing then was simply to set the time. Is everybody okay with October 7th, that first Wednesday? Is that, I think that deconflicts with most of the big scheduled meetings. That's why we kind of picked it, but is that?
At the same time, 6 p.m.?
Yeah, we'll stick with the 6 p.m.
Is
Right.
that okay
That's what I'm
with
looking for.
Karen? Is that okay with Karen? Did you
I-
guys
I-
talk
I gave-
about the
Yeah, I
meeting?
gave her, yeah, I had given her the 7th, October 7th already. And
Okay.
she didn't say it wasn't okay with her, so I'm assuming if there was a conflict, she would have told me.
And does everybody realize why we didn't have the meeting last week? Because it wasn't, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it just, the
Supposed to
announcement didn't get posted. We caught it the last second. And Karen was apologizing. It was just, with everything going on and this being, it's
Right.
a regular kind of meeting and it slipped through the cracks. That's, anyway. It was a good
Well,
catch.
and I also just want to say that this is, as far as I know, one of the only committees like this. And so the city didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't know how to deal with it. And we're watching the ramifications continue. So
Yeah.
once we get on track, once Karen, has it on a regular day, then we won't have these hiccups
You
anymore.
mean you didn't know case from 1983? Come on, Mayor. Come on, let's get with it.
I
Yeah.
caught it.
No, I meant the original why this whole thing from about you got council and you got planning commission, so now it's a Brown Act. Oh,
Exactly.
exactly.
And we want to be good.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think Alex was the one who originally cut that one, but that was good. Anyway, okay, enough of that. So, no last chance for any last minute comments. Otherwise, I'm going to adjourn us and let's go to dinner. And Mary, thank you again for stepping
Sure.
in. And just please be if you need to be. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you all for your time tonight.
Okay.
Be safe out there.
Thank you,
Okay,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. And committee members, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, the gavel, we're adjourned.